Hello, my bookish friends. I'm going to be doing a new release reading vlog. I'm going up to my parents' cabin tomorrow, and I'll start it up there. So I'm going to be packing all day today. I have 3 in mind that I'm going to read for this vlog. The first one is Knight's Edge. I just barely learned about this book. I went book shopping a few days ago and discovered it. I had never heard of it before. It's a modern vampire story, so I'm excited to check that one out. And then I have The Only One Left by Riley Sager and Dead of Winter by Darcy Coates. And those are 2 books that are my most anticipated of this year. I love both of these authors and I'm very excited to share this experience with you guys. So when I get up to the cabin, I'll let you guys know and we'll start this vlog. See ya! To my parents' cabin, and here's the room that I'll be staying in. It's got a little ensuite bathroom. I'm going to start off this new release reading vlog by reading Knight's Edge. This is a library book, so that's why I'm reading this one first. It needs to go back in a week. Anyways, this is a vampire story, but it's like a modern take on a vampire story. It's not your regular vampire story. It sounds more like a Contagion, where you come into contact with vampire blood and you essentially get this disease that makes you crave blood. Just listen to this first line. Sorry guys, my daughter needed my attention, so I had to hurry and sign off for a minute, or whatever you want to call it. Anyways, I was going to read you the first line of this book. It says, "I'm hungry and it's 2 in the morning. The fridge is empty and Mom is dead on the couch." And I thought that was really interesting because at first she was like, "Oh, I'm hungry, but there's nothing in the fridge." And then she says her mom's dead. And you would think that her mom being dead would be the bigger problem. But then as you start to read, you realize that this girl, because her mom turns out to be a vampire and her mom's boyfriend is a vampire, there's never any food in the house because they don't need to eat. And so she, who is not a vampire, is kind of left to fend for herself, and she's just 10, and so there's no food. Every time she goes to look for food, there's nothing in there. So that's why her hunger was a little bit more prevalent than her mom right then. But turns out she does love her mom, so that's good. I'm not very far in. I'm only like 30 pages in is all, but I was excited when I first opened it because it's actually set in Salt Lake City, and I'm only about 40 minutes away from Salt Lake City, so that's pretty cool. You learn this in the first 2 pages, so it's not a spoiler. She finds her mom dead on the couch and she's got bite marks all over her. So she comes to find out that her boyfriend, who was a vampire that had this disease, as it's known, they kind of got frisky one night and he bit her like a bunch of times because he got out of hand and she was dead. And so she was freaking out and trying to call 911 and get the police here. And he was like, "No, I can fix it. So he bled into the mom's mouth and made her a vampire. So now, fast forwarding into the present, this was in 2010. Now in 2023, her and her mom are still together. The boyfriend has been gone for a while, they broke up. And it's just her and her mom again. But now there's only an 8-year difference between them because her mom stopped aging. And so when her mom changed, when she was only 10, she's now 23. And she's like getting close to her mom in age, that'd be so weird, when they're going to be the same age. And then when you become older than your mom, essentially, that'd be really weird. It's really interesting so far, just the the way that vampirism is used in this novel. You know, it's out in the open, people know about it, but it's more like a COVID thing where, you know, you have to get away from the disease and be healthy and be clean, and they have these scanners like everywhere you go, they prick your blood and they test it, and you can't come into the establishment until you've proven yourself not a vampire. And then it sounds like there's been a curfew where nobody was allowed out at night for a while, because if you were out at night, you must be a vampire. They've been murdering and systematically exterminating the vampires. So now her mom is in hiding and nobody knows that she's a vampire. And so she got away with it because she bought a bar. At least I think it's a bar. It might be a restaurant, or a restaurant and bar. But anyways. And so it's open at night because now the curfew's been lifted and they can have nightly establishments again. And the mom, you know, gets away with it because she was not quite old when she changed, but she was, you know, a middle-aged woman, which, you know, from the age of like 40 to 60, I mean, not a whole lot changes physically with you. So she's been able to get along with it, you know, and she just has a really good skincare regimen. And because she runs a bar, she can be out at night and nobody suspects her, and she doesn't have to be scanned because she's the owner. So she's kind of been just skating under the system. The really bizarre thing about this vampire story is I wanted to say teenager, but anyways, the 23-year-old daughter, she actually gives blood to her mom every day. So she'll just like get a bag like you do at the hospital or when you're giving blood. And she'll just fill up that bag and then pour it in a cup and her mom drinks it. So she gives her mom drugs. Why did I say drugs? I guess the blood is like a drug for the vampires. I meant she gives her mom blood every day for her meals, which is just bizarre and squeamish in my opinion. And I mean, being your mom's food source and her daughter is just a weird dynamic. But anyways, and they can't fight. She can't make her mom angry at all because then the vampire will come out and attack her, you know. And so they just kind of have this weird dynamic, and it's kind of like this known thing that they're not going to date and they're not going to do certain things. Like she doesn't drink alcohol because it makes her blood taste weird. So they have this agreement that she won't drink and stuff like that. So it's kind of interesting. That's pretty well all I have to say about this book right now, other than it does kind of read like a young adult book, to be honest, because she is 23, but because it's like a mother-daughter thing, it just kind of has that YA feel to it. But I don't hate it. You know, I like YA, but just be aware going into it that it does kind of read YA, even though it is technically an adult novel. I'm gonna go do a scavenger hunt with the kids and my mom, and then we're gonna grab some dinner, and my daughter wants to play some ping pong, and I'll come back for another update later. See ya. Hi guys, it's the next day and I'm about 100, let's see, about 100, about 100 pages into Night's Edge. You know how I was excited that it was in Salt Lake City? Well, I guess there's a reason for that. In this world, apparently vampires are allergic to caffeine. And so they went where they knew there'd be a lot of LDS Mormons that don't drink coffee, and there'd be a lot of supply for blood. So that's kind of weird. I don't know why vampires would be allergic to caffeine, but you know, some people just want to make their vampire lore a little bit more unique and stuff. And there's some other unique lore about vampires in this book, but I'll let you discover that for yourself. I don't want to tell you everything. I was pleasantly surprised because they do have alternating chapters of her when she's 10 and her mom just barely became a vampire. And then she also has chapters where it's in the present time. And I like that because I like figuring out more about the world and figuring about
vampirism, how it came up, and all that stuff is really interesting. And there's obviously something that happened with the guy at the beginning that they're not telling us, and so that's kind of intriguing to see what the mystery is. The guy's name's Devin, to see what Devin's doing. The present chapters, I don't know, I'm not really that into it. It's kind of turned more into a romance, which makes it even more YA feeling. And like I said, I don't mind YA. I do like YA, and when I read YA, I expect there to be a romance because most of the time there is. But I don't know, because this is technically an adult novel, I just didn't really expect that. I'm just not really that into it. So I don't know, she's kind of like mad at her mom for keeping something from her. And this romance started. Sorry, there's bugs flying around my face. But I don't know, I'm just not that into, I'm not really into that. So I'm mostly intrigued by the chapters back in the past. But so far I'm enjoying it. I think it's good. There's not really that much else to say about it. I probably won't stop fly. Anyways, I better stop this video before I get eaten by bugs. I'm just gonna go for a four-wheeler ride with the family, and I will hopefully get some more reading done later in the evening, maybe when we stop for lunch. So I will update you guys later. See ya. Yeah, I see the deer.
She's cute.
Yeah, she is cute.
And so small. No, that's baby.
Yeah, is that a baby? I think it's a doe. That's a mama deer.
Look.
I'm home from the cabin now with another update. I finished Night's Edge, and I kind of see why the relationship was in here now that I finished the book, so I have less issues with it before where it just kind of seemed thrown in there. I can kind of see now why there had to be a romance in here, so I didn't have a problem with that. The relationship between the mother and daughter is very toxic, but that's to be expected in a story like this. And I did have one minor issue with this book. I view it as a little bit of a plot hole. In this story, you can kill the vampires by like a rusted bullet or a rusted knife, and the rust on the metal is supposed to lead to sepsis, and so within 2 weeks the vampire will sicken and die. Well, the mom has been feeding on her daughter, as I mentioned earlier. Well, the daughter's wound gets infected. It's all pussed up and everything, and she needs antibiotics, but the mom's still been feeding on her. So why would a rusted blade sicken a vampire, but drinking the blood of somebody that has an infection wouldn't? That didn't quite make sense to me. But other than that, I thought it was a pretty good book. It was a unique vampire tale, and I really liked it. I would give it 4 stars. So I have also started Dead of Winter by Darcy Coates, and I'm loving it so far. If you don't know what this is about, it's about a group of strangers that are going on a 2 week vacation up in the Rocky Mountains at a mountain lodge. But before they get there, the bus breaks down and they can't get across the road to get to the lodge, so they end up going to a small cabin in the woods to wait for rescue. Well, unbeknownst to them, there's a killer among them that starts to pick them off one by one. So this is really fast paced. It got right into the action right away, not a dull moment. I'm only on chapter 15, but so far, really good. Looking forward to seeing where this one goes. I'm here for another update. I have finished Dead of Winter by Darcy Coates and I loved it. I thought it was really good. It was very fast paced, never a dull moment, and I thought it was fantastic. Darcy Coates has the unique ability to always get me invested in the plot and invested in her characters like right away. I don't know how she does it, but I always feel connected to her characters, so that's really fun. A lot of people say this is more of a thriller book, and I would disagree. I don't think it reads like a thriller. I think it reads like a slasher. It's more in the vein of like, I Know What You Did Last Summer. That's kind of the vibes I get from this. So I would definitely classify it as horror, not thriller. I was not able to figure out who the killer was, so that was also very fun. I love it when I can't figure it out. And I was just there for the ride. I finished it in 2 days. It was very fast. Granted, I was sick, so I couldn't really do anything else but read. But despite that, I would have read it really fast anyways, just because it was really interesting and I was really into it. So, anyways, I highly recommend it. I think it was a good one. So, yay. So glad. I always get a little bit apprehensive that I'm going to be disappointed, but by and large, I'm never disappointed by a Darcy Coates book. So, I am off to start the new Riley Sager, and I will let you know when I have an update. See ya. Hello, my bookish friends. I'm here for another update. I have started The Only One Left by Riley Sager. I'm about 150 pages in and I'm loving it so far. It's so good. It definitely has those gothic vibes. It kind of reminds me of a mix between The Haunting of Bly Manor and The Fall of the House of Usher. Bly Manor because she's taking care of somebody in a remote mansion and there might possibly be a haunting going on, so I kind of get those vibes. The Fall of the House of Usher is because she sees like cracks in the walls and the house is like listing towards the cliff, and so everything's like slanted. So it kind of reminds me of Fall of the House of Usher, where the narrator sees the crack and then later on the house falls apart. So that kind of reminds me of that story because of that. So far, I'm really liking it. I think it's really good. I don't want to give too much away because I think going into certain stories blind is always a good thing. But really, I haven't gotten anything more than what you've already known from the premise. You know, she's taking care of this older lady and she thinks that she hears somebody in her room walking around or she sees shadows, but everybody claims that there's nobody in there. And when she opens the door, she doesn't see anyone. So that's really intriguing. I kind of hope it is a real haunting because personally, I prefer to have real paranormal stuff than when it ends up being, you know, something that's not paranormal. That's just not my favorite. So I'm hoping it really is a ghost, but we'll see. Anyways, I'm really liking it. I like the characters. I think they're all interesting and intriguing and fun, and I will let you guys know when I get farther into it, and hopefully it keeps with the vibes and it keeps with the same enjoyment that I have with it now. So we shall see. Hello, I'm back with another update. I got a little bit further in The Only One Left. I don't want to say too much because now I'm like over halfway through, so I really don't want to give anything away. I will say that it's intriguing because we don't know for sure, even now, if the main lady that she's taking care of is in fact a killer or not. But she can only use her left arm. Everything else is pretty much paralyzed because of polio and other health issues. And so she has this typewriter and she's been slowly typing out the story about what really happened the night those murders took place. So that's been really fun to kind of piece together what's been happening. Other than that, I really don't want to say anything. I don't want to ruin it for you guys, but I'm still loving it, and I think this is going to be a 5-star for me unless the ending really bombs. I know sometimes Riley Sager has an issue with his endings. He doesn't always stick the landing, and sometimes he throws like too many twists at you, and sometimes the twists are good, and sometimes you're like, okay, that was unnecessary, or that was a weird twist, or whatever. So I'm a little bit apprehensive that it's not gonna have a good ending, but so far I love the rest of it. This is exactly what I wanted from this book, so yay. So anyways, I'm gonna finish this up and I'll let you guys know if it was indeed a 5-star or not. I just finished the new Riley Sager book, and it was so good, you guys. So good. So I have the unpopular opinion that I absolutely loved The House Across the Lake. I know not a lot of people did, but I'm the ones that loved that book. So as far as liking this one more than The House Across the Lake, I'm not sure. The overall storyline, I like this one more. It's very gothic and it takes place in an old mansion that's falling apart, and you know, all of that is like my favorite. I love those gothic vibes. But the twist in here, one of the twists was very, very like overdone. Like I've seen it in thrillers a lot. And he does hit you with a lot of twists. And I was okay with that. Most of the twists were, you know, fun. So I didn't mind that there was like so many twists. But like I said, there was nothing like earth shattering about any of them. There was nothing like shocking about them. And so as far as like the twists, I thought it was good, but at the same time kind of average. But the story itself I really loved. And The House Across the Lake is like the opposite, where I thought the story was pretty good, but you know, kind of average. But then the twist was like so shocking and so unique and so fun. And so I want to say they're about the same. You know, they're like the opposite, but they're both 5-star ratings for me, if that makes sense. So anyways, this was a good one. I really, really enjoyed this one a lot. So if you're a Riley Sager fan, or even if you're not a Riley Sager fan, or if you've never read Riley Sager, I suggest you go pick this up because it's good. It's fantastic. So go read it now. All right. Well, that's going to end up this reading vlog. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I will catch you all next time. See ya.